Here we are for the final match, and we do want to play first, winning the die roll. We have a great hand once again. Turn to Shamble Shark, into Slaughterhorn with the potential Hands of Binding to, well, gain some tempo. Not going to mulligan. Potentially we could draw into some of our black spells, but we do have Verdant Haven and 3 Swarms versus 3 black spells, so I think we should be fine. Looks like our opponent went down to 6, and we are off to the races. Playing against Spire Tracer. Now that could be both Gruul or Simic. Maybe a Simic Mirror in the finals, no. We are playing against Gruul. And he does have a nice curve, which I think is very important in this format. And that Greenside Watcher actually a very good blocker for the Shamble Shark we have here. Burst of Strength, however, should be a very nice foil to these plans. I think that we run out Slaughterhorn here. We don't allow him to trade. Next turn we Hands of Binding whatever he drops, and then have Burst of Strength to make sure that our creature doesn't die to his Greenside Watcher block. That's also an option, I guess. I think then we just tap down the Watcher anyway. On the other hand, he could be dropping something that's really scary, but I have a feeling that we should be fine here. Alternatively, we don't play the Hands of Binding, but then it's impossible for us to drop the Shadow Slice, so tapping the Watcher here I feel like is a good idea. And I think we want to Cypher onto the Slaughterhorn. You could have Arrows of Justice, which we can't do anything about. Then we want to have the Shamble Shark in play. And if we Burst of Strength something on this board, I think it's also better to Burst of Strength the Slaughterhorn, because Shamble Shark might grow if we draw another creature. And if we Burst of Strength the Shamble Shark, it becomes more unlikely for that to happen. That's interesting, a pit fight before combat to play around Blood Rush. Not a bad play, but not very good against Burst of Strength here. And so it wouldn't have been, a lot of cards would have been bad there. So for example, if he untaps and tries to mugging the Slaughterhorn. Now the question is, does he have a blocker for Slaughterhorn, of course. He has another removal spell, but I think we traded off quite nicely there. We draw the perfect card. While it's possible to encode one of the horror tokens, I think just immediately getting a second 1/1 flyer is much more valuable in this spot. And he has played the Homing Lightning, so he won't be able to kill all the horrors. We didn't even need to show him Shadow Slice, which would have closed out this game very, very quickly. Yeah, a great performance by our spells, especially the Burst of Strength showing its power once again. That was quick. So I don't really know if I need to change anything given that we are playing against Gruul. Hydroform isn't that amazing if your opponent has a lot of Blood Rush creatures. He did show us a Spire Tracer of his own, so having a 3/3 blocker might not be the worst. I really like boarding this card in if you couldn't have guessed from the last match. I also like Naturalize against Gruul, because they do like to play Madcap skills, and if somebody shows me Spire Tracers in a Gruul deck, I'm pretty aware of that potential, but I think that with Rust Scarab and Hands of Binding and some flyers, we probably don't need to board in Naturalize before having seen any of these cards, because Spire Tracer is a fine playable card even if you're only Blood Rushing. I feel like. I think I'm going to leave it like that. I like our main deck against him. and we can see what he shows us in the second game. He's keeping on the play, and we have, once again, we have no green source, but we do have black, so, well, sorry, we have no blue source. So this hand basically needs a blue source in 2 draw steps to function optimally. Then it's an insanely good hand. But if we don't draw a blue source very early, then we probably don't do anything. All of these cards are very tempo dependent, so I'm going to ship that because it's just too risky not to draw an island in the early turns. And this hand is similar, but we are already down to 6 cards, and if we draw an island here, we actually get Crasis, which is also good if we don't do it on turn 3, but a turn later. And I like the late game this hand offers as well, so I think I'm going to keep it. No mulligans for me. Our opponent is on 7, so we are going to have to see how that works out. This is certainly 2 hands where the black splash cost that, but I think what the black cards did for us in the previous games more than makes up for it. We also have some green spells we can cast, like the one we drew here. I'm immediately going to block, because I don't want to take extra damage. Not going to show him the swamp, don't think that's necessary. Our opponent has an interesting hand there. Not something I would keep on 7 on the play. Turn 1 Foundry Seed Denizen, turn 2 Spire Tracer, and then no 3-drop is pretty weak. That would have been better as an island, especially given that we have the Shadow Slice. I'm almost interested to just not trade here, but with Rust Scarab in hand, if we draw another forest, we can just play the 4-5 and Shadow Slice that. And not taking too much damage here is probably a good idea against Gruul. Going to play some blockers first. Now that we have the 5th mana, I know that I want to block with Rust Scarab, or basically I'm forced to block with the Rust Scarab for tempo reasons. And I want the Spire Tracer for the Shadow Slice. Oh, we could, I guess, bluff something again here. Certainly doesn't hurt, really. It's quite unlikely that our Rust Scarab is going to survive the next attack step, but I think we are giving us the best chances to win with being aggressive with Spire Tracer and staying on the defensive with Rust Scarab. If he doesn't have anything, which is very unlikely for a red deck, then this Rust Scarab might actually hold the fort. It's also possible that he has Homing Lightning and no good way to use it. Rubbleback Raiders. Man. So we didn't draw the mana for our blue splash, but we have been able to cast all of our black spells without problem, so things aren't looking too bad, but this turn is going to be quite painful. And of course the chances to just draw a blue spell and skip our next turn are very, very high. Rubbleback Raider is going to grow enormously. And we probably won't have the tools to prevent enough damage. But we'll see. I'm pretty certain that he also has to have at least one more spell in his hand, so I'm not too optimistic about this game. If we draw an island, then we can block the raiders and try to win with Spire Tracer. And it's possible that we can just chump block the raiders for a while. Given that we won't be surviving 3 attack steps by this board, we can just see what he attacks with, and if it's better to chump block the raiders immediately or to block something else, whatever prevents more damage. However, given that our rogue isn't important to kill him in 2 turns, and we could only draw Slaughterhorn to kill him in the next turn, I think it's very likely that we just chump block the rogue. Chump block the raiders, sorry. If he isn't attacking with Warmind Infantry, it does actually look like he doesn't have anything else to play, which is pretty amazing. So I think we just go for maximum for the maximum damage prevention here, and hope to survive one more turn. Now, if we block the raiders next turn with the Scarab, we aren't taking too much damage actually. We're only taking 6. Yeah, this might actually be going fine. As I said, given that he isn't allowed to have anything really. He certainly didn't have the Blood Rush cards that you'd usually expect from a Gruul deck. We could force the Greenside Watcher to block if we attack with Rust Scarab, but 7, 8, 9, 10 is more than lethal, so we just have to hold back and sit here with our uncastable spells. Still no spell. This is intense. We are dead to a +5 +X Blood Rush effect. We go to 5. Should be pretty obvious to him that we have nothing, so he basically just has to show us anything. Yeah, that's sufficient. I don't know if he didn't have that or if he didn't want to kill his own Spire Tracer, but I mean, probably Druid, I assume. So that game is over. Don't see a good card that we could bring in against his Rubbleback Raiders. I think we are probably fine as is. I think we are playing the right configuration of cards. We also have the Hands of Binding to actually negate a lot of what he's trying to do, and we need the Black Splash, even though not drawing an island certainly costs us the game. So I think we just go for it. Okay, Let's hope for a good starting hand. That's some cheap cards, but I kind of like it. That's really good curve with a lot of potential, especially to make the Shamble Shark 4-3. Certainly not a mulligan. That's great about drafting very curvy decks, is that two-landers are your best friend. Well, not if you immediately draw a 5-drop, but you get the idea. Of course, we're going to pump up the Shamble Shark once again, and there it is. I was wondering if he had that, thinking about potentially bringing in Naturalize preemptively. So Disciple just hits for 2. We want the Incursion Specialist to pump up the Shamble Shark again, even though it might get in for more damage. Metropolis Sprite also has the bonus of being able to block Spire Tracer if we draw another flyer. So I think it's more important to get that into play than the Disciple. It's also more likely that the Disciple gets blocked. Madcap skills being very good against us because we don't have the removal that we need. To punish starts like that. So it's clear that we want the Specialist in play, making the Shamble Shark a 4-3, and I think we just run out the Disciple as well. We have a blocker for the infantry. The Disciple doesn't even actually attack into that, so if we run it out, we lessen our chances of triggering this, and we miss out on a damage on Metropolis Sprite. Might actually be correct to hold the Disciple, because we aren't going to attack the Specialist into the infantry, or if we have Specialist Disciple, we aren't going to attack just to force through 1 damage, losing the Disciple on the way. On the other hand, if he has a trick or something, we might want to be able to double block the Specialist. Now, attacking for 6 here or attacking for 7 are basically our options. It's possible that we just win the game if we draw a spell. Let's just try that. Let's just draw a 2-mana spell and win the game. Or at least force him to chump block or block quite awkwardly. Burst of Strength would be my preferred way of going about things here. He's also in a position where he almost can't attack with the infantry. Even if he has a trick, using a Blood Rush creature on the infantry and then being completely exposed to whatever I might have is a pretty easy way to lose. I'm probably going to get punished and draw a black spell, but who knows. Our opponent attacks for 4 again and passes the turn, so that sounds like a homing lightning to me. Yeah, we just run out the Rust Scarab here. The Shamble Shark is going to grow, and I assume that he just homing lightnings the shark. Could attack with the Specialist, but don't think that makes a lot of sense. If he doesn't have a removal spell, then he needs to chump block the Shamble Shark, but that's just so unlikely. 5, 6, 7. He would take 7. And if we take with the specialist, we take away his... The only thing we take away with attacking with the specialist is that if he chump blocks the Shamble Shark, which is very good for us anyway, that then we also deal 1 more damage. I think we don't need to do that. Now he's on 6, with us being in the better position, definitely, because if he blocks the Rust Scarab, which we can force him to, then we get rid of his Madcap skills. And if we draw a spell, we actually win right there. And that's Shadow Slice. No way. Is that not lethal? Oh, it is, because we can cipher. And I think it's just fitting to put it on our Spire Tracer. That seems like the correct ending for this game. Yeah, I would love to know if he had that Homing Lightning in game 2 or if he drew it. But right now I'm just happy that we got there. I think this last match is a pretty good example of what Gatecrash Limited is about. It's recklessly aggressive, and you need to draft curve, you need to draw evasive creatures, cheap creatures. If you have a hand of a 1-drop, three 2-drops and 2 lands, you are perfectly fine to go. And yeah, I'm still kind of hot-headed from that exchange here. That was a brutal game, with us just barely coming out on top. I'm Simon Götzen. This is Simon Says. Visit mtgoacademy.com for this series and many others. If you enjoy my show, let me know. You can reach me on Twitter. I also post sometimes on my Tumblr blog. And you can post comments on mtgoacademy.com or on YouTube. I don't check the YouTube comments all that often, so if you want a response, it's probably better to visit the site. Okay, that's it for me, first time drafting Gatecrash. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but I hope you took enough away from this draft anyway. See you next time.